All right, you keep the show going. This little trick is going to cost Madame a suit for breach of contract.
Mademoiselle, her nerves.
Her nerves? How about my nerves? Who is she? Where does she think she is? Russia? Well?
I want to be alone.
Where have you been? I suppose I can cancel the Vienna contract?
I just want to be alone.
You're going to be very much alone, my dear madame. This is the end.
Should I? Does Madame wish now?
And you guys are really separating yourself from the chaos. You're no longer allowing people to put themselves on your table when they don't even need to be there. You're looking at the situation to see, okay, what actually benefits me in the situation, and you're not allowing people to really have you go on overdrive when it comes down to really overextending yourself, being in a place where you're not being able to decipher, okay, what actually needs to be on your pathway. You're embarking in this well energy here, okay? You're placing yourself in a situation where you're giving yourself a deep dive to your healing journey. You're giving yourself time to really look to see what actually serves your purpose, okay? Some of you guys could accomplish a lot of things. You're just looking to see, okay, what actually works for you in your new journey and what actually serves its purpose when it comes down to your finances, when it comes down to your emotional health. You're no longer looking at things from an older lens when it came down to, it could have been just like on a financial level. You're looking to see, okay, with the finances, how is my emotional health at the same time? Okay, and with this well energy, you guys are really taking that time to do that deep dive to really see how that emotional level is really treating you when it comes down to, you know, people in your environment, when it comes down to people, like I said, really investing within your career factor. You guys are no longer taking yourself through this long loophole when it comes down to really discovering, okay, what actually has to be in your pathway and what can actually be, moved to the side. That's with the stingray energy, okay? You guys are looking, once you're coming out of this well energy, you're looking to really start your new pathway with your new success and this stingray type of mindset. And stingray only gives its energy towards people who are actually going to be in alignment with them, okay? And you guys are looking at your situations and just looking at your choices from a new whole type of lens, okay? And if you're seeing that people are really not really worth your time and not really worth your attention to really take you further in your journey, or being that, you know, understanding and that helping hand and not having you overworked or being in a space where they're overly depending on your success or overly depending on your guidance to the situation, okay, and not really bringing anything to the table, you're cutting ties, okay? You're cutting ties from people who are just really, just riding your coattails, and you're seeing for yourself, okay, who actually is putting in the legwork, who actually is helping your mental health be at a stable place in your workplace, okay? Who's giving you a peace of mind when you leave the door, okay? A peace of mind on your way home, okay? You're looking at just how you feel in this new chapter, in this new journey. It's all about, looking at the feelings. Well energy, like I said, even when you started with the hyena energy here, it's all about, that hidden emotion, okay? You guys are taking that deep dive with that well energy here. Sorry about that. Flipped over. You guys are taking that deep dive with that well energy here to really understand what actually makes you tick and what actually works well with you in your environment, okay? Some of you guys, like I said, you could be in management right now. You ran into different characters who really were not really of alignment, and it had you in a stressful position, okay? You're no longer tying yourself down with this same rate energy. Once you come out of that, that deep dive, that deep understanding of yourself, you're seeing what actually works for you and what actually is benefiting you when it comes down to your overall success, okay? When it comes down to your overall growth, okay? Stingray knows what actually is the best move for them in their new pathway, what actually works for them when it comes down to understanding how their energy ties into the workplace. And with that, you guys are going to walk into a whole new journey and a whole new avenue with a sense of peace and not a sense of urgency which is where you had at the beginning. Okay, some of you guys could have took that needed break. Okay, and it could have had you in a space where you just really didn't want to jump back into your your career in your career journey because you're like, okay, I'm overwhelmed. I'm feeling I'm at a breaking point. You guys are now looking at it from a different whole lens. You're looking at it from a space of healing where you're like, okay, you know what? I'm not gonna have myself be in this breaking point. I'm gonna be able to delegate properly. I'm gonna pick people who are able to, do the work while I delegate and make sure that I'm doing what I need to do on my side and they're doing what they need to do on their side. Okay, you're bringing into that balance. Let's go into your tarot reading here. Let's see here. Yes, not a source of reverse. You're breaking free of that chaos. Okay, you got the Ten of Cups, and you're landing right into your Ten of Cups here. All right, we got the Ace of Swords. You're saying your truth. All right, you got the Hermit card here. I'm sorry, the Hierophant. Bringing into union people around you that's looking to cultivate, looking to grow, and not someone who's just, like I said before, riding your coattail. Let's see here. Five of Pentacles. You got people going to be left in the cold. You guys are no longer tolerating people who are just, like I said, riding your coattails for the journey, riding your coattails when it comes down to figuring out their pathway in their career or just in their life, okay? Some of this could be, friendship energy or could be family energy where they just have you in a space where you're overly giving it in a situation and you're actually looking at yourself and really doing that deep dive, doing that work to say, you know what? Am I doing too much when it comes down to these individuals? Do I need to let them live their own lives and really figure out their own journey instead of having them gripping onto me when it comes down to really exploring what they need to do in their interaction, okay, with yourself or with other people, okay? They could be really clingy when it comes down to really depending on your insight, okay, to get to their next level. You guys are like, you know what, I'm not going to put in that time and that energy for someone who's not able to take a seat back or take a step back to say, okay, you know what, I need to go about my own process and my own mental understanding with how to deal with other people. All right, Nine of Cups. You guys are, like I said, looking good. You guys are no longer taking situations, from face value. You're looking to see how things impact you on an emotional level. You got that Moon in this Hyena card here, okay? You're looking at your overall well-being on an emotional level. Two more cards for you guys. Okay, that's going to leave people feeling some type of way, okay? You got that everything's fine right here, okay? People are going to be looking at you from a whole different lens. Everything's fine, but like I said, at the end of the day, some things are not fine for them because they can no longer be in that same space with you on a mental level or on a conversational level too. One more card. Let's see. Page of Cups in reverse. You guys are no longer accepting people who are not investing their time properly in you, and you're no longer going to put yourself in a situation where you're realizing that you're not going to do a deep dive for individuals who are not really worth your time to begin with, okay? Like I said, you're breaking free of this not a source energy. You're getting things out of your head where it comes down to overthinking things, being in a situation where people were, like I said, not really being upfront with you when it came down to your growth or really upfront with you when it comes down to your overall communication. You're stepping free in this Ten of Cups, okay? You're in this new season where it's like, okay, you have your talent, you have your your hard work that you put yourself in that investment for, okay? And you're like, okay, with me being in this hard work and energy, okay, I'm taking a new pathway because that's a stingray. It's all about success, but it's all about taking new pathways that serve a better benefit, okay? And half of you guys are really in this space where you're not afraid to cut things off. You're in the space where you're ready to really tell the truth as far as how you feel about certain people in your environment, and that's something that you probably was in the past where you sort of was in this hyena type of space where you kind of did not really engage or cut things off. It sort of came from a joking type of manner. You guys are being really blunt as far as who you want in your environment, okay? The Hierophant here. You're being blunt as far as who you're looking to share with. You're being blunt when it comes down to really sharing your energy, sharing your emotional, your emotional stability, your mental stability when it comes down to people who are willing to give that same type of effort back, okay? When you're seeing things that are more so on a one-sided type of method, you're leaving it out in the cold, okay? Five of Pentacles. You guys are no longer tolerating people who are not really feeding into your energy, okay? Because you're like, I can do bad all by myself. You got the Nine of Cups here. You have that emotional security, you have that financial security, and guess what? When people are looking at you, not afraid to cut the ties, okay? Not afraid to put in this Ace of Swords energy here, okay? They're gonna try to put the funk in here, play the funk like, okay, everything's fine, okay? But everything's not fine because they're, in their feelings about you having this independence, okay? And they're like, they're looking at you like, okay, well, you know what? I thought the collective was going to be able to put in this energy or put in this, this support system for me. But okay, with me coming into their environment with a page, you like, no, okay? You guys are no longer falling apart when it comes down to your overall success. You're not in this self-sabotaging type of energy, okay? You're just looking at how you're going to like navigate through your finish line. Who's going to come along for you for the new process and new journey of your life? Who's going to stay where they need to stay at, if they're not, willing to engage or understand how you're moving in your own particular journey, now that you have your new education, now that you have your money, you're like, let me be stingy with my time, okay? And let me see who's actually worth the investment and not have me in the space where, I feel overwhelmed by this person's presence because, I'm just putting in the energy towards them, but they're not doing the same thing towards me.
Who am I? I'm the greatest. Who am I? I'm getting paid. Who am I? I'm so flagrant. Who am I? I'm the greatest. Who am I? I'm getting paid. Who am I? I'm so flagrant.